Hi, ladies. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. This is Kristen King. I'm here with Melissa Bell today. I'm super excited about Thriving on Thursday, and this is the first interview that I'm doing. So I want to just welcome Melissa, but also share real quick. The reason for Thrive on Thursdays is to bring female thought leaders forward to share about their passion and just like how they're supporting others, helping others in the world, and really to make this a better place for us all to live. So thank you, Melissa, for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, Kristen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. Me too. And as I've shared previously in my post, Melissa is the Menopause Coach. So I'm hoping that we can learn a lot of great information today. And no matter what stage you are in, if you're premenopause, you're going through it right now, or you're out on the other side, that there is some information and wisdom to be gained from Melissa here. So thank you so much for joining. I'm really happy to be talking with you.
I'm really happy to talk to you, and we're twinning.
Oh, yeah, and it's Jean Jacket Day.
It is Jean Jacket Thursday. Bring it back.
Awesome. All right, the first question that I want to actually, could you just share where are you located and maybe a couple sentences about you?
Yeah, I live in Chicago now. We've lived here a little bit over a year, but I've lived all over the U.S. and even out of the U.S. At various points in my life. I think I counted up the other day as like a little rivalry contest. I've lived in 28 different domiciles. So that's including apartments and stuff in different cities and different parts of the country. So, and I am married. I have one son and 8 pets. So there we go.
8. Oh my gosh. Interesting fact. 8 pets. Yeah. How are you traveling with 8 pets? Totally off topic.
So 3 or 4 of them are pretty self-sufficient. They're chickens or a lizard or a frog. So you can leave them enough food and go. And the dogs, we just get someone to board that. We board them. And the cat's self-sufficient too. So
oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's amazing. We have one, and that's a lot, especially if you want to go anywhere. So, all right, the first question I want to ask you today is what led you to wanting to help women to navigate their menopausal journey?
Yeah, great question. So I think like a lot of us in this coaching and help, guide sort of role, we come to wanting to help others because of our own journey, right? Things that we've been through, that we've experienced, and therefore we've gained some knowledge and we want to help others through theirs so they don't have to go through the same things we did. And I feel like menopause is one of those things. As women, we're prepared a lot of times for our first menstrual cycle. Either our moms or some other, woman in our lives teaches us all about it, what's going to happen. We get the book, we get we watch the videos. And same thing for pregnancy. We're kind of told what to expect. And then when it gets to menopause, all we ever hear about is hot flashes. And that's I think when people think menopause, they think hot flash. And there's so much more to it. Yeah, right. And there's so much more to it. I went into perimenopause at the age of 41. And perimenopause is just pre-menopause. It just means you're still getting your cycle, but your hormones are crazy and fluctuating. And I've talked to a lot of other women who go into it early like that too. And they've been told by their doctors, it's too early. You're not in perimenopause. And I'm here to say, yes, you could be, because I was. And I'm not the only one that it's ever happened to. And so what happened to me is I started experiencing insomnia. I mean, I used to sleep like a baby. And then all of a sudden I'd start waking up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and just lay awake for hours and then fall asleep right before my alarm went off. I started getting heart palpitations. I would notice them more at night, more of a racing. But then even once it was so bad, I was doing a warm up of a workout and I had a heart rate monitor on and it went up to 220 and stayed there. Even after I stopped pedaling, I was on a bike and it just stayed there. And I actually went to a cardiologist who told me, well, you are getting older. And I was like, oh, I'm in my mid 40s. Like, that's not that old. So very dismissive of women's health, which is a lot of, practitioners, unfortunately, just because they don't know a lot. I was having a lot of mood swings, brain fog. But the thing, and I'm going to say this, and I'm being 100% honest, that put me over the edge was gaining weight. right? I've always been like, I've always been a person, I've never been like naturally thin or whatever. Like I've always been on that roller coaster, ups and downs or whatever. But when I just put on 15 pounds for no reason, I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. Like I could deal with my heart race and I could deal with not sleeping, but the vanity part of me and gaining weight was like, no, I can't handle this. So I did a lot of research. Actually, during the course of my research, I became certified as a health coach. Did a lot of research and realized it was all hormonal, like everything, because nothing in my bag of tricks that I used to do was working anymore. And I want to say one other thing that happened to me. So if this is like a symptom, it's also perimenopause, is crazy periods, right? Like, I used to be able to set a calendar by when I get my period every 28 days, like that. I knew what to expect. And then all of a sudden it was like super heavy all the time. And it would last like 8 or 9 days, like being really super heavy. And sometimes I would get it every 2 weeks, and then I wouldn't get it for 2 months. And then it was all over the map. So that's like another telltale sign that you're probably in perimenopause, just because your hormones are fluctuating so much. So like I said, I did a lot of research. I went down the rabbit hole of, learning as much as I could on how to, support myself. And what I learned is like you can be eating right, but just not eating good, but just not be eating right. And there's a lot of other factors that go into affecting our hormone fluctuations. And so I got those all under control. And I lost not only the 15 pounds that I had gained, going through menopause, but I lost another 15 pounds that I had never been able to lose, ever, never. Like they would always be the ones that I thought, well, this is my set weight, I guess, right? And so I lost them. And so I am the smallest I've ever been in my adult life right now, the ripe old age of 47, even with everything going on. So it's possible. It's possible.
That's amazing. It's amazing. What would you say is the biggest factor affecting women in perimenopause and menopause?
Imbalance in so many areas of your life. So I'm going to go with imbalances in your body. Like that's the most evident one, right? Hormones are fluctuating. The key really to having going through menopause and perimenopause with ease and flow is to support your body with nourishing foods, and really then bringing and getting the imbalance that's in our minds also cleared up. So by reducing stress. So people think of, stress is bad for you, right? Like stress causes heart disease. Stress can, lead to this, but stress also affects our hormones. Yay, one more thing to worry about, but I don't want you to worry. Yeah. So it sounds very woo, it sounds very new age, or, talking about meditation or breath work or just being able to reduce your stress, but it's biological, it's scientific. As we enter perimenopause and menopause, all that means is that our ovaries are shutting down. They're no longer producing the progesterone or the estrogen that we need because we're not making babies anymore. I'm sorry if you hear my dog; she's dreaming below me, so you might hear something. So what happens is the job of producing those hormones, those sex hormones, goes into our adrenal glands, takes over. So our adrenal glands, though, are also produce cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And they can't do more than one thing at once, right? So if you're constantly in a state of stress, whether it's because you left your cell phone at home or you're late for that important meeting or you have nothing planned for dinner that night, it's stress, stress, stress. And your body doesn't know the difference between that and you being like chased by someone or something like a saber-toothed cat that wants to kill you, right? It's a fight, flight, or freeze. And so if your body is constantly in that state of stress, your adrenal glands are always producing cortisol and they are not producing your sex hormones, which you need to keep your body in balance. So definitely getting your mind right and doing a lot of those new agey, woo-y things can help. And then the other thing is like just balancing, again, imbalance is balancing your spirit, balancing your soul. As women, we're so used to, and it's just part of our nature is to give and do for others, right? And so we just kind of forget about our own joy and what makes our heart sing and what's gonna, so we're out of balance in that area. We're not really happy. We don't know what's going to make us happy. And, and we're not able to show up as best as we can. So really being selfish and taking time for yourself and to really find what's going to make you happy is going to be able to allow you to give more and find balance in that area as well.
That's so interesting. That actually segues nice into my next question, which is how can women find that happiness during menopause?
Yes. So I like to say, turn those hot flashes into a power surge.
Love that.
Yeah, many women as we reach this age is sort of midlife, and it is midlife. I mean, we can 100% expect to live to 80, 90, 100 nowadays, even more with all the advances we have in medical and nutrition and fitness and all that. So this is the midway point. This isn't, 200-300 years ago where women died pretty much right after menopause, right? Like we got a long time to go. So I feel like a lot of women hit this age and feel like, oh crap, right? Like I've just spent the last 40, 50 years, like I said, taking care of everyone else, or, working that job just because it was what I was supposed to do. Or, I always wanted to go to school. I always wanted to, do this, and I just didn't. And so I feel like now is the time to tap into that, like to really find what's going to make you happy and do it. Take the experiences that you've had throughout your entire life and tap into that power to launch you into the next half of your life. Because I like to say, like, make your second half your better half.
I love that. I mean, from my own perception of menopause and what would happen in our post-menopause life, it's like you wouldn't be thinking, I mean, just conventional wisdom, you would not be thinking that actually could be the most powerful part of your life. Because I think about it, most people, their kids are out of the house or almost out of the house. They have the freedom and the flexibility they've never had before. They have more time to do things like meditating or intentional breathing, or just researching, like, how can I eat better, healthier, feel better? How can I balance hormones if I'm not feeling good? You actually have that time back, which is something that we kind of lose when we're raising our family, right? And so it's amazing to think that, like, the second part of your life is your best part of your life, and you can make it about you. And hey, like that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients like, we get to the point and it's like, well, what do you want to do? And so I've had a client who has gone on a game show. Like that's something she always wanted to do. Learn the guitar, plan for that trip around the world after we're post-COVID, things like that. That really, that you thought it's too late to do. And it's not.
Right. I know. It's all just, it's in our heads, right? And we see that second half as being like the half to do those things that we were not as focused on the first part of our life. That's incredible. What key piece of advice might you give to a woman right now who's listening, who's facing perimenopause or menopause?
Embrace it, right? So menopause is not a disease. It's not a condition or an illness. It's just the next phase. It's just another natural phase in our lives. It's unavoidable. The only way to avoid it is, the alternative, which is to not live long enough to hit it, right? So embrace it. You've made it this far. But that doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. Like embracing doesn't mean that your only alternatives are, suffering through it or going on hormone replacement. Just a little bit more about my story. Like hormone replacement for me personally was just not an option. Like I was not going to go there. My son is an IVF baby, and I did like 3 or 4 cycles of IVF. So that is a lot of hormones being like that I had to shoot into my body through those years. And it just wasn't something I wanted to do again. So for me, it was more about like the more natural way and doing it like, let food be thy medicine, or else medicine will be thy food, kind of a thing. But you don't have to suffer through it. Like it's not a negative. There are things you can do. And also not suffering. I don't embrace it, but you don't necessarily have to go grow old gracefully. Like, I'm not talking like you don't have to dye your hair if you know, like, it's natural is everyone has their own way they want to do it. God bless those women who can pull off the grays. I can't, and all that stuff. So do whatever's going to make you feel good about being you at this point.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what advice would you have for any partners or spouses who have women and they're, married to someone or live with someone who's in menopause?
I think I like to tell them all to go on a 4 or 5 year vacation and just leave. No, move out and then come back. No. Support her and be patient. She's going through a lot of things that you can't even control. It's just, and it's a time in her life where, I've talked about here with you that she might be feeling less than, she might not be feeling as sexy or as confident. Her energy levels might be drained. So really just be there for her and know that, like, tell her you still love her. Be aware that she's not in control of her emotions. So if she starts crying over a sitcom for no reason when everyone else is laughing, or yells at you because you forgot to pick up that one item at the grocery store, just know she's not really herself. I also I actually created a guide around this for partners and spouses. It's called What is Happening? A Partner's Guide to Menopause. And I'd love to share it and drop it in the comments, the link to that for anyone who's watching in your group.
Yeah, we would love that. Thank you. Please.
Yeah, it's great for like the women to read, but also like if you don't want to have that conversation, just go, here, read this, honey.
Yeah, I mean, just from the point of understanding a little bit more about it, I'd love to see it, awesome. And maybe deliver it to my husband. So I want to segue into one of our last questions, which this interview series, which is on the One Life Facebook group, which is such an incredible community of women, but really by living one life, what I really want to focus on with this group is how we can live intentionally. And go into the rest of our life. I mean, who cares about the past? Who cares about what's been going on up to this point? We have a choice. Every single person, every single woman has a choice to live the rest of their life with true intention. So if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners today as to how they could live their life more intentionally, what might you share with them that could help?
Intention is where you put your focus, right? So like what you're going to focus on. And I say, as a woman, focus on your inner voice, right? Really, really trust what it's saying to you and where it's guiding you. It will never steer you wrong. So a lot of times you might think, well, I did that thing that I thought I should do and it didn't turn out right. But did it not turn out right? Like it may have not been the outcome you were expecting, but it probably was an outcome that steered you in the direction that now you can, like in the past, like look back and go, wow, like that really pushed me to here, which led me to here, which led me to here. I think a lot of times as women, we doubt our inner voice. Whether that's because society or people in our lives have questioned things that we've done. But I just say, be intentional about it and listen to that inner voice.
That's amazing. I mean, I think a lot of us suffer from a lot of self-doubt. And so it's easy to be steered in a different direction by someone in your life who has a different opinion. And then you do the thing they suggested or they thought was best for your life. And then sometimes we actually find ourselves like, why didn't I just do the thing that I originally thought I was going to do? Because that ultimately is where you end up going.
Exactly.
A few weeks later, a few years later, whatever it is. I mean,
exactly.
You end up going in that direction anyway, because our inner guide is so much stronger. I mean, at the end of the day, and if we just trust ourselves, that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
We can, move forward with those intentional sights in place as to what we truly need for ourselves and for our life, for our happiness. So
100%.
Thank you. I love that answer. Can you let our listeners know how they can learn more about the Menopause Coach and about what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's streaming down below. So that's my website, www.yourpowersurge.com. And I'm also on Instagram, which is at Coach Melissa Bell. So just how my name is there with Coach in front of it. And I'm always posting like useful tips and hints and all sorts of things to help you go through your menopause with ease and flow.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. I learned a lot today. I hope that any of our listeners that they did as well. I will be doing my next interview next week, same day, same time, as we thrive on Thursdays. So thank you so much, Melissa. It was really
Awesome.
great.
Thank you, Kristen.
Have a good rest of the day.